Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse. It is March 11th, 2026, and I'm your host, Eric Osterman. For those of you who are new to Office Hours, this is where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. Now, real quick, before we get started, I am the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse has developed the ultimate infrastructure as code framework. We call it Atmos. If you haven't heard about it, and you're running Terraform or OpenTofu, check it out. Just go to atmos.tools. Quick note on how to get the most out of today's session. The format is informal. You can engage as much as you'd like and ask questions. And if you're curious about any of our open source tools, like Atmos, this is a great place to ask. If you're watching the recording, keep in mind these are live, so don't miss out. You can join future sessions by going to cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. Now, one small ask, if you find any portion of today's session valuable, share it with your team. You can find the recording at youtube.com/cloudposse, just posted in a few hours. So with that said, let's jump into those announcements, or let's see what caught my attention this week. So now this wasn't this past week, it was the week before. We had a special edition last week talking to the founders of StateGraph. If you didn't see that, check it out. StateGraph is pretty interesting. A way of a more efficient Terraform backend that enables pretty interesting use cases for Terraform. That's StateGraph. Vercel Queues. So a very well-established pattern in serverless applications, right, is you have your serverless functions, and then they're stateless, and you need to have state somewhere or temporary state, so you have a message queue somewhere. Ingest has been a very popular option for those operating on Vercel. Now Vercel has a native solution built into the platform called Vercel Queues. I think this is pretty cool. We are big users of Vercel at Cloud Posse with some of our properties, and it just simplifies things. One less service we need to subscribe to. It is in beta, just FYI, and I have just rolled something out using it. It was pretty easy. I believe the tokens are automatically injected if you enable the feature, so that makes things easier. Yeah, any questions on Vercel Queues? This is going to take a chunk out of the pockets of ingest, unfortunately, probably. Ingest is the go-to platform that a lot of companies are using for this same functionality, including Cloud Posse. So ingest has also been really good. It's just kind of funny. I see we use resend as well. I wonder, resend is probably hosted on Vercel, uses ingest. It's just the mashup and glue of all these services together these days. All right. Next, this was something that also happened last week. Somebody has created an interesting variety of Claudebot, you could say, called Hackerbot. And this has notoriously compromised, and now my screen went blank here. This has notoriously compromised the Trivy repository. So if you had checked this repository just around when I had originally got this announcement, the Trivy repository was empty. And there's some irony behind this because Trivy is a security scanning tool. So yeah, it was pretty sad. But GitHub responded promptly and was able to restore the repository to its original state. A postmortem has been performed. My understanding is it was an insecure usage of pull request targets in the workflows. And this is one of the biggest pain points for us as an open source company operating on GitHub is how to run tests from forks. And the reality is you have to use mocks for everything. You cannot use any integration secrets for anything. If you want to use an integration secret, you can use pull request fork and then join the club of Trivy. It's an elite club. The problem with pull requests, so on GitHub, you have two types of events on pull requests you can trigger on. Pull requests, which operate kind of like in a sandboxed environment, have no access to secrets, and are pretty much safe from forks that run the workflows. You should still disable automatic execution of GitHub action workflows. That's what we do at Cloud Posse, and we have contributors always approve workflow runs before running. But many projects don't do that. And the alternative is you use pull request target, and pull request target runs the workflow from the head of your default branch. So let's say it's main. And because it runs in main, and because main is a trusted branch, it has access to your environment and secrets that are in your environment. And then what some projects do is then they clone the commit from the fork and run the integration tests that way. Only that's giving away the keys to the kingdom, because whatever code is in that checkout is untrusted, and it can exfiltrate any secrets that you have and so forth. So my assumption is this worked something along that way. Maybe it was just using the GitHub token permissions, which would also allow it to potentially manipulate the repository. But the gist of it is avoid pull request targets in all of your open source repos. Yeah. Any comments on this? And there were I think there were hundreds of other repositories or something compromised by the same attack. All right, then next up is two announcements from Atmos. So one is this past week we just released in 1.209. I don't know why the version is not showing up here. But in version 1.209, we just released Atmos AI. And what makes this release special isn't that we added yet another conversational client inside of Atmos. We're not trying to say, hey, use this instead of Claude Code. Not at all. What this was a release where we have implemented the underlying plumbing inside of Atmos. So we can do a lot more interesting agentic things inside of Atmos. And the fact that we implemented some of the expected commands like chat and exec is the other one, and ask is to basically prove or validate that underlying functionality is working. But the nice thing is it ships with Atmos skills out of the box. So you can use Atmos AI with all the major frontier models. You can use it with Anthropic, OpenAI, and you can use it with Bedrock if you're using Bedrock, and the list goes on. And then we also coupled that with our skills. So if you are using Atmos, I highly recommend you check this out. You can install it from the Claude Code marketplace, and it adds specialized skills for each of these kinds of operations, and more to come as we invest in them. I've been using it personally on our own infrastructure repositories at Cloud Posse and totally loving it. It's pretty awesome to see the magic that happens when you have a consistent framework and the agentic skills and infrastructure just materializes. And it's not just spaghetti code, it's actually structured according to project conventions and so forth. So pretty cool features. Any questions about Atmos AI or our marketplace skills? Then the other thing I wanted to go into briefly, there were some other things we released this past week. We did introduce a language server. It is also experimental. We will continue to invest in this. This lays the underlying groundwork for doing more with a language server. Language servers are, of course, how you get all the syntax highlighting and completion for things like stack configs in your editor, like Cursor or VS Code or IntelliJ, etc. So check that out. There's installation instructions for how to use the language server. One of the things we added was if you are using vendoring in Atmos, previously we only supported vendoring a single version to multiple locations. The idea was vendor version 2.1.0 to a folder called 2.1.0 and vendor it to a folder called latest, for example. Well, now we support combining that with overriding the version spec. So now you can version a single source and write multiple versions to different paths with versioning. So it's very convenient if you're using versioning. All right, any questions on vendoring with versions? All right. One other update is listening to the community. One of the funny things you don't realize is sometimes you think you've done a good job explaining that something is multi-cloud or isn't AWS specific or has nothing to do with our reference architecture. But when enough people bring it up, then you realize, maybe we should just say it's multi-cloud. And we did. So now when you go to Atmos Tools, you can see that it is multi-cloud capable. Along with this announcement, we also published a couple interesting design patterns. So one of the things that I think is missing from the overall infrastructure as code community are published, validated, proven design patterns. There are a lot of Medium posts that show how to wing it in different ways, but this is how we do it at Cloud Posse, how we've architected Atmos to work, how you can lay out your configurations, recognizing there's no silver bullet and there are trade-offs on how you do it. So what's interesting about this is we published the multi-cloud design pattern showing you a couple ways how we've been helping customers organize their configurations based on established conventions within a given cloud. So using accounts, organizing by accounts, organizing by dev account and production account, maybe for AWS. But then things look a little different when you work with Azure. So showing you that, for AWS, you're organizing by accounts. For Azure, you're organizing by subscriptions. For GCP, you're organizing by projects and so forth. And then the other pattern we documented is how sometimes a monorepo for all of your infrastructure reaches a tipping point. And as we've seen customers' monorepos for infrastructure grow and grow and grow and grow, we realize that for some teams, it gets overwhelming and totally reasonable. So like, let's say you're an app team, you have your set of ECS tasks, and they depend on some SQS topics and maybe an S3 bucket, and they want to manage the life cycle of their task. Do they really have to understand everything in your infrastructure monorepo that you got going on there? Or maybe would it make sense to use the infrastructure monorepo to manage the shared resources like an ECS cluster and delegate some of the responsibility of IAC infrastructure as code to the application repos? So this is a pattern we've seen emerge over the past year as a really elegant way of solving it. And we show how we've done that with Atmos and organizing it. We also have a live example. If you go to Cloud Posse examples, we've talked about it here on Office Hours. This is a live example, shows how to run ECS tasks with Atmos, where only the task itself is managed in the application repo. And in the application repo is where your app code would live as well. And all of this then wired up with GitHub Actions. Yeah, so next week, I hope I can talk more about this. This is really cool. Atmos, we've built in native CI support into Atmos. And what that means, let me see, where's the best example here? What that means is you can now just add a simple line like this in your GitHub action workflows, and Atmos automatically generates the job summaries for you. So you get so you get beautiful output like this. This is the plan. And this is, you didn't have to pipe all the output into a file. You didn't have to install TFCMT. You didn't have to use some GitHub action to set up your OIDC connection with AWS. You didn't have to install Terraform. You didn't have to do all of this stuff, because in one line, you get that with Atmos. And that's what this workflow is basically showing you now. Probably even easier if I just show the file. So here's this simple workflow now that has the only external action really that we need to get this to work is this. This here, actually, I didn't realize we still had this. This should go away. That's not needed. That can happen using Atmos toolchain. So this workflow really is just install Atmos and then deploy to ECS. The other cool thing that this adds are status checks. So you see this status check here. This gives you Atlantis style status checks. That means that if you're using Atlantis today and you like Atlantis and you like Atmos, you can basically get the same outcome with all the flexibility of GitHub and GitHub Actions using Atmos and this. And your workflows are simple. You have full control over the workflow. And it's not yet this other container process you have to manage somewhere running with God mode over your entire AWS estate. You have GitHub Actions. All right. Any questions? All right. Then we got some GitHub announcements. So GitHub Actions has supported artifacts for a very long time. They have some GitHub Actions that make it easy to push and pull artifacts. Artifacts are, of course, a very convenient thing in your CI workflows where you have a build step that produces the binary and a test step that downloads the binary and executes it for your tests, maybe in parallel, like in a matrix. The annoying thing was that everything had to be a zip. You point it at a single text file that's like 5 bytes long, and it becomes a zip file. It's very convenient if you can have a manifest in plain text that you can just click and view it, but you couldn't do that. You had to click, view it, download, zip file, unpack, zip file, open, zip file, look at it. Now you don't need to do that anymore. So now GitHub Actions supports uploading raw artifacts without zipping. All right. Any comments on that? So HashiCorp BSL Terraform has some things coming out. One is the ability to formally document or communicate that your variables or outputs are going to be deprecated. Basically, the variables in your Terraform modules or root modules and the outputs are basically a contract that say, this is how you use me, this is, and these are the inputs that I need to operate. But as modules, grow and change and evolve, inevitably some variables aren't needed anymore or refactored maybe into objects or maps. And it would be nice to convey that the other variables are deprecated. That's what's coming now in 1.115. Has anybody taken a closer look at the release notes for 1.115 BSL Terraform? All right. Then here's an announcement everyone's been talking about. I have not checked it out personally myself. Every AI platform, Copilot, Anthropic, now Microsoft Copilot, and now Perplexity has come out with a similar concept of like Cowork. And I hear good things about it. Anybody actually try it? The idea here is that it's basically managing a fleet of agents, letting them self-delegate and organize. So, if you were on office hours, maybe a few weeks ago or a month ago, question came up like, if you're using OpenClaw or similar things, you can quickly consume a lot of tokens. Anthropic has come out and said, do not use your max plan with Claude Code or similar thing. So everybody's who had a GPT subscription switched over to their OpenAI subscription. That's what we did, and that works well. Um, but it definitely made me curious about seeing what models I could run locally. Unfortunately, I was when I got my Mac Mini, as everyone did, for OpenClaw, I wasn't thinking that Anthropic was going to shut it down. And so I didn't buy like the max memory. I only got 16 gigs of RAM, and not many models run on that. So I thought this was an interesting tool that came out around the same time. I haven't gotten to check it out, but it tells you based on your system's profile and performance, what models you can consider running locally. Be curious, who is running models locally. I know Jeremy White was talking about using 64 gigs of RAM for autocomplete. I'm hoping for a little bit more than that. Oh, I see Noel posting here. I've been using Zeta AI with GLM for OpenClaw type stuff. So I do not know much about ZAI. Um, Noel, anything you can you bring me up to speed on Z? Super cheap Opus rival from China. Okay. I'd be curious, how much RAM are you working with, Noel, on your local workstations? Now we got a little latency there, but I am interesting. And Zoe, you said you have a lot of local models running. I'd be curious, what are your machine specs like, Zoe?
What was that?
Oh, Zoe, what are your machine specs like for running your
Um,
local?
so it's a Ryzen 3700X, what my old gaming PC with 64 gigs RAM, and then a 3090 Ti with about 2 TB of NVMe space.
Okay.
It goes almost as fast as Claude does for with GPT OSS model.
Okay.
It's almost as accurate, not as great in my opinion, but it's close enough for local stuff.
So, and the GPT, is this by OpenAI, the GPT open source, or is this different?
I think it's different. I think it's kind of built off the same data set, but by a different group. I can't remember the details off the top of my head.
Got it. All right. Okay. And Noel's not running it locally for ZAI. It's hosted. Okay. I did see there was I should have brought this up. There was an interesting conversation on Hacker News. Um, see if I find it here quickly. About there was a post that said that Anthropic is losing $5,000 a month for its highest usage users. But this was an interesting way of analyzing what their potential margin is, because operating one model versus another, I'm guessing, isn't that much more expensive. And if you look at the pricing of the models, I'm guessing like ZAI and things like that, their price is so much less than the token price is of Anthropic's models. So I think the mistake that was made here was that people expected that the retail price is what they're losing, and it's not. So what I really am curious about trying out some of the other models, especially when Claude has downtime like today. I just haven't had the courage to get reacquainted with another model and its quirks. All right, let's see here. Next, talked about that, talked about that. Yeah. So this was more of a thought piece uh, based on
Oh,
based on my LinkedIn feed and based on what my own team is doing and based on what I'm doing is that there are so many personal like productivity tools for coding coming out because everyone has kind of their own needs or requirements or preferences. And it really made me think how, I've been really bullish on a tool that I really like called Conductor, but my team is, they like it, but they also have their own workflows that work really well for them. And my LinkedIn feed is just filled with developers posting like their process, their tooling. And I feel like soon it's almost going to be like one-to-one the number of developer tool workflows for AI as it is this. But this was an interesting one. You heard him speak up here a second ago from Dan on our team. He whipped this up with which is his system for doing massively parallel development work across multiple repositories. He's using it with like the Cloud Posse open source ecosystem. And yeah, I thought it was a really cool project. Dan, you want to share what you've been doing here?
yeah. So I mean, this comes from two places. So first, it comes from the idea that I was working across many repos frequently, and I had created a Claude skill that would automatically check out the Git trees that I needed. But it was becoming really repetitive, and the skill was being interpreted in different ways and making mistakes, and I ended up with a ton of different Git repos cloned in different locations in many different folders when I was trying to do things in parallel. So therefore, what I tried to do was, or what I've learned is that I think AI does better when it's given um, tools to use rather than skills to interpret. So if you give it a tool that is able to set up Git trees for you and set up the caching of the repos in a central location and know how to render them, then it's more consistent. So the point is with this tool is not to do any AI things itself, but it's to be used by AI to set up the Git workspace. But that brings me to the second point, is that because tools are so easy to develop now, I think every developer should just create their own tools. Like, why would I pay for someone else to do something when I can just create my own tool set in a weekend and then customize it every single day with a single dictated prompt?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to give it a try, uh, take a look and uh, issues.
I
Whatever,
think
if you report an issue, I'll send it to Claude and get it added.
Claude will work on it right away.
Yeah.
I think Noel, you've been doing something similar. Like you have your own workflow tooling that you've been building for your massively parallel development. But I think Noel's on chat only here. Oh yeah, CodeWire. Let's see. So this is it. Noel has something that he's been doing. So I guess this is similar, create a CLI that allows AI to create more agents and spawn out into dedicated VMs. So that looks pretty nice. Site looks pretty clean. Tmux, but with a KV store, a relay, and fleet management. Is the re what is the relay? Is that like Slack or?
Yeah, it's so the basically they can all message and talk with each other. So if you
Oh,
launch a CodeWire process, you can group them, and then you can have them send messages to each other from inside of it. And then there's a relay you can run if you want to have them all communicate back like into a fleet. You can use it. Yeah. And then I have it connected into the next thing that's coming for customers is to launch their own environments. And that's all my infra with the hypervisor that I wrote for isolated pods. So yeah.
By the way, your gain sounds like it's turned way, way up and it's
Oh,
distorting.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the new Linux box. So
Uh,
as video and audio on Linux. Awesome. I'll have to look at it. Thanks.
yeah, I guess not much has changed as it comes to Linux and audio drivers, has it? But okay, that's really interesting. If you want to do a demo, one of these office hours, reach out and I'd be really curious to see this thing in action. And th that goes for you too, Dan, if you ever want to do a demo of your flow. All right. Cool, cool. Let's see here next. Yeah, so this is old news now since this came out a week or two ago. One is you can now remotely control sessions started on your workstation with the Claude mobile app, I believe. So, kind of like the OpenClaw like convenience there, not quite the same since it's not meeting you where you're at via like Discord or Slack or things like that. But still, something I've really wanted was the remote control sessions. When you step away and go to the grocery store, your agents might be waiting on you. You can't let them down. And voice is the other thing. So, that's been the other thing. Like we use Willow Voice and Spokenly, and I've tried a bunch of these different voice tools. I haven't tried this out yet, but now there's the native voice recording built into Claude Code. So now you don't need yet another service to do the dictation piece. Obviously, dictation, I think, is universally valuable from writing messages into Slack to talking with agents to dictating emails, etc. But has anybody given this a shot yet? The native voice dictation in Claude? I'm curious how it works as a console app. Do I have to type slash slash voice to get voice? That's a problem. All right, so this is also old news, and I don't remember what the vector was, and that is not working. That link that I posted there. Anyways, heads up, 0-day for Chrome that was actively being exploited. So if you haven't updated, update. So Wiz looks like the acquisition went through. Wiz is one of the preeminent security platforms that teams use for compliance and staying on top of their obligations to do vulnerability scanning and reporting and so forth. Wiz is a sunshine story, if you will, started by a few guys, I think, that came out of the military in Israel. They started the company and quickly grew the revenue to some astronomical MRR or ARR. And what's interesting about this is like they're in the news all the time. They're finding their security team is top notch. They're finding a lot of vulnerabilities. And most recently, yeah, the big snafu with Moltbook, whose database was public. That was embarrassing. Note, Moltbook has been acquired by Facebook now. Only appropriate that Facebook will be the social network of bots, I guess. But what makes this Wiz acquisition interesting from my perspective is a little bit how they did not go the IPO route and instead chose to cash out quickly through the private route, getting acquired by Google. Wiz has also been very staunchly cloud agnostic in the sense like it's not like Security Hub, which is only for AWS. The idea is that Wiz is one platform that you can use regardless of which cloud you're on, and as you expand into multiple clouds. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Google acquiring them. Google's track record of acquiring companies is spotty at best. But I bet this is one acquisition that's too big, too enterprisey to get sunset. Any thoughts on Wiz? Whew. Things are moving fast. So last year, I think at some point, Cloudflare released pay-per-crawl, which is a way for websites that have data to charge AI systems for crawling it or using it. I have zero delusions about that working. I don't think that's going to be a sustainable model. Wow, thunderstorm rolling through here. If it works, it's going to be like Spotify, where the top producers maybe can squeeze out enough to make it worth it, while everyone else is squeezed and you're getting checks worth pennies. Then about 3 weeks ago, maybe Cloudflare announced Markdown support if you opt into it for all of their sites. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Rather than every one of these agents burning through insane amount of tokens to parse a page, why not just give the page to the agents in the format they want, Markdown. So if your client sends a content type header of text/Markdown, Cloudflare can now serve that page in Markdown. And it also serves a header that says how many tokens it expects you to burn by consuming that page. All right, so that's pretty good. And that brings us to the next question. Why are we crawling to begin with? So I guess that's now you can just one-click curl an entire website that opts into this, which is interesting. Like, there's zero defensibility in content anymore if you like the way this is going. It's just like, trust me, we'll figure this out at some point. I don't know how to reconcile it. But if you're familiar with like the LLMs.txt standard, if you're and the LLMs-full.txt standard, this is kind of in that territory. But I believe this is a structured download of all the content of the site, perfect for consumption by LLMs. So yeah, this is like Spotify saying, hey, you can just download the whole Spotify catalog. We don't care. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's one of those things that if you don't enable it, people will find a way around it anyway. Like there's
Yeah.
already companies that have ways around browser protection, like Kernel's one of them that gives LLMs the ability to navigate websites. So if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this genie is out of the bottle and it's not going back in. Yeah. Do you want to mention, so what was it? Kernel.sh, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is just a Cincinnati startup. What they do is browser automation. Essentially, they create uh, browsers that you can run in the cloud to automate workflows, like with Playwright scripts and that kind of thing. But it works really, really well with LLMs. So I can tell my LLM to set up a kernel session and then write a script that does something. Like for a personal project, I'm tracking like macros in like a health app, but they don't have an API. But what I could do is I can write a kernel script that goes to the browser on my behalf in the cloud and then logs in for me, and then enters all my macros automatically from OpenClaw. So it integrates really well with the tools that we have.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, it was weird CSS. Yeah, the main page has this weird CSS issue for me.
I think it's intentional. There's something
Really?
about aesthetic or styling. Who knows?
That's a weird one. Definitely got me like, what's wrong? I'm zooming in and out and zooming in and out. Yeah. All right. Full disclosure, Dan's brother works there, so
Yeah.
uh, uh, thought I'd give him a free shout out. All right. What else? Crawl entire websites. Yeah. Amazon. Uh-huh. So there have been, oh, that didn't work. Well, there have been a few embarrassing outages at Amazon recently, and apparently they have recently had like an engineering all hands that now they are requiring engineers, senior engineering at least, to sign off on all commits that are AI generated. And I believe the joke is that's what's going on in Anthropic lately as well, given the number of outages they've had recently. So no office hours would be complete without another announcement of another Cowork product. So Microsoft Copilot Cowork has come out now, as well as a way of orchestrating agents across your Microsoft 365 estate. At what point, I guess we're gonna have somebody's got to be working on it. The manager of coworkers. So how do you go across all of these? Hmm. So this week on Hacker News, there was an interesting post with a lot of conversation. So chardet, or I don't know how you say it, character detection is a Python library that makes it easy to detect the character encoding of content. And it's a popular project with that's been around for a while. I'm not sure the entire history of it, but I'm guessing it was a fork from another project. But the original project was licensed LGPL, which is the lesser GPL license and a little bit more toxic. The project re-implemented the entire feature set with vibe coding and licensed it MIT. So now it's a very permissive license. And Mark here, the original author, chimes in saying, "Hey, you can't just do that." Definitely feel sympathies for him on this. Yeah, if somebody did that for one of our projects, would not be happy. But it's an interesting thought experiment. LLMs arguably might have even been trained on the original implementation. And here you're creating a derivative work then leveraging the AI. I forget, I think they say somewhere that this was a clean room rewrite, but I don't know if you're using AI, I don't know if one can really claim it's perfectly clean room. Any thoughts on this one?
I mean, this is just going to keep happening. AI is going to read the internet, recreate something it can read that's public, claim that it created it on its own.
Yeah. There was a interesting post related to this. A comment here. I don't know if I can find it on time, but it was something that I didn't know and learned. So Anthropic has, their max plans, which unfortunately are only available to individuals. Companies or team plans can't use max. They have to pay for token API usage. But there's a difference in actually the legal protections that you're getting from Anthropic. if you are using a Max plan and using Anthropic to do a project like this, let's say, you indemnify Anthropic that they had anything to do with that copyright infringement. But if you are using Anthropic under a team plan, I believe, or enterprise, then they indemnify you. Meaning if somebody brings a copyright claim against you, you're indemnified. It's their problem. It's Anthropic. They cover you. I don't know if that's been tested yet, but I'd be curious. All right, next. Yeah, I think this is similar. There was the other post about the Hackerbot. I don't know if this was the same incident. They happened so close together. But for some amount of time, there was a supply chain vulnerability in a popular package that added a post-install step here. And it relied on repo squatting like this. And I honestly didn't see it until they pointed it out here. Note the missing I in GitHub. So it's, it's a dangerous world out there. Let's see, next. One of the things that Dan actually turned me on to was a really cool CLI for working with Gmail. I forget what it's called.
GOG.
GOG, right, GOG. So that's by an organization unaffiliated with Google. Well, Google themselves have come out now with their own CLI for managing Google Workspaces. And this, aligns perfectly with what you said earlier, Dan, which is like, skills are good, but they only get you so far. If you want more imperative outcomes, put it into a CLI. Teach the skills about the CLI, and now that scales. So this is an official Google project for managing Google Workspaces with a CLI. So your Google Workspace administrators can basically use Gemini or whatever your tool of choice is to do that. I would be posting all these links at the end.
So I tried out this one, and I still don't think it's a full replacement for GOG yet. Like one of the key features is read all emails, and it can't do that. It can
Oh, this is
create
for
emails.
I okay, I was
Yeah,
thinking this is for workspace administration rather than consumer of a workspace. Does that make sense?
that's probably what it is, and I must have misinterpreted it because
Hmm.
I wanted it to be like connected to my agent to ask questions about my emails and
Yeah,
alert me on certain things.
yeah. Friend of mine gave me the tool he's been working on for QuickBooks, and it's been pretty awesome. Just like, oh my God, it's just so nice just being able to talk to get all the information out of QuickBooks, not having to figure out how to use it. So yeah, the CLI approach. And lastly, this uh, gained some traction, of course, with the the whole brouhaha. Was it last week or the week before when the Department of War classified Anthropic as a was it supply chain risk or something, and you know require all contractors working with Anthropic to phase it out and move over to something else. OpenAI jumped in and made it, and filled the void. Anthropic has since seen like insane increase in signups with people jumping ship. The app jumped in the App Store marketplaces and signups. They've even said that they were not prepared for the influx of new users as a result of this. Well, one of the interesting things that came of this that I wasn't aware of is that you could export all of your memories out of ChatGPT, and that makes it suddenly a lot more interesting to maybe move to another platform. Um, I'm still pretty happy with OpenAI as a LLM platform, but I don't like the lock-in. Has anybody done an export and import somewhere else?
I mean, I've tried to export a couple, like almost a year ago at this point, to try to grab things like training information, logs. Um, but it, I almost think some of the memories are not worthwhile. I get kind of annoyed when it's trying to give me information or memories about something I told it 6 months ago that's not relevant anymore.
Right. Yeah. There's that. That's going to be a whole new field of study is like how do you build in natural, I don't know what the term is, like attrition of memory. Um, I guess through natural, compaction processes probably does that over time. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I got. Let's see. Anything else we should discuss this week? Any questions? Any cool tools? Any discoveries? Oh, Ben, you shared a tool I didn't see here. What is this? Auto research.
Yeah, this was something that came up on my news feed and a little bit of research into it. It looks like it's using your Claude or ChatGPT subscription to sort of train your own model that's hosted on a
Oh,
single
this,
GPU.
huh.
And this seemed kind of relevant to one of the previous conversations we were having here of, if you're hosting your own, model on your graphics card of whatever size, this is supposed to be something that you run while you sleep. So it's the scientific approach, iterate, verify the results, and keep improving and try to get the model as close to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're training it against for results. So I thought,
This is kind of, I mean, isn't this what DeepSeek did or
yeah,
is
back,
rumored to have done? Okay,
yeah.
then I understand.
And this was apparently open source. This is, I guess, a guy from oh, I don't know. It's either it's one of the Tesla or X8 AI or one of them, one of the engineers there.
Hmm.
At least that's what it said on my Google News when I saw this.
Hmm.
So mildly interesting stuff.
Yeah, clearly somebody. I confess I don't know who it is, but they have 143,000 followers just on GitHub. That's crazy. Um, okay, founding team at OpenAI. There we go. Hmm. Okay. Any other interesting topics? All right. Let's see, chat. Agent Sandbox. Oh, yeah, this is a new project of running agent sandboxes on Kubernetes, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it was like exactly what I was looking for, except not quite as fast. So I sent some PRs in to make it faster. But
hmm.
it's pretty, I think that this is a really nice approach.
And what gives you a sufficient level of isolation? I think that that was one of the things you were running up against. That was it. I forget which sysbox or which. What was the?
Yeah, yeah, none of that worked. So I switched over to using a Zen hypervisor, and then I wrote my own container runtime, and it was a lot more work than I wanted to spend, but it was actually quite enjoyable and fun. So Yeah, that's what I was experimenting with. Nothing else works.
Hmm.
Nothing else is really the answer for that. Yeah.
How were you able to when you told me that, I was always curious about how you reached that conclusion, or how were you able to, did you run some tests to break the sandbox or break out of the sandbox, or how?
Yeah, I have like I have like a team of agents now like running in pods, coordinating with each other to escape the containers.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, a lot of it was looking at, there's a lot of nice open source Zen stuff that exists. And the concept is really just like Zen is 78,000 lines of code. So it's reducing the vector of attack. And then it gives a separate kernel to each domain. And then you just layer, it's like defense in depth. So you just layer on top of that and create these daemons to handle all of everything that you need to. It's a pain in the butt to do, uh, but it seems to work. Like then there's set comp and BPF and everything to try to mitigate anybody actually getting out. But yeah, I have a bunch of stuff fuzzing constantly, every time that there's like all day long. And then yeah, I have like a bunch of red team agents trying to attack everything.
That could be a product in and of itself, probably. Yeah, just a red team as a service. Go Reds.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's kind of cool to like have a thing that dog foods itself. So yeah.
Maybe that's what's going on with your Linux system, though. They've infiltrated your audio device.
I'll have to get a new microphone to figure this out. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan shared Hypeman, and remember we were talking about kernel.sh earlier? Kernel.sh is built leveraging Hypeman, and it sounds like Hypeman is kind of similar to the thing that you built.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
the same concept where you're running where you're running hypervisor, but this is a tool they made to accomplish essentially the same thing because they have all these bare metal instances that they use to support their environments that have them all containerized. But they need some way to then execute or launch containers on, or not even containers, launch VMs on those instances. So this
Yeah,
is a
so
tool that's built for that.
the
Yeah.
I looked into Firecracker and like going down this route, but I really wanted to be able to approach it with like Zen has para-virtualization or the hardware para-virtualization. And so you can actually run Zen on non-nested virt devices, and
Mhm.
it actually provides that. Otherwise, you have Firecracker. I'll have to check this out. Thanks.
yeah, at least for inspiration.
And then another disclaimer, my brother wrote this. Conflict of interest.
Yeah, but his brother's a great guy. All right. That brings us to the end of office hours. Thanks, everyone. We'll be posting a recording of this session to the YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Cloud Posse. If you are ever interested in commercial support from Cloud Posse, all of our open source is commercially backed by Cloud Posse. If you want speed or you want help accelerating anything, uh, great way is to get in touch with us. And then lastly, if you are new to Cloud Posse and our community and what we have going on here, you can register for office hours. These are live every Wednesday. Go to cloudposse.com/office hours. Our YouTube channel, as I shared earlier, our Slack community at cloudposse.com/Slack. Open to everyone, and our newsletter, which is now going out monthly officially. Woohoo, finally. So go to cloudposse.com/newsletter to get that in your inbox once a month. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.